Hello there and welcome to this coaching session. This is Paul Puckridge. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and if you have your workbook handy, let's go to pillar number 6. As we learnt during the training, it's important as a manager that you stay organized, and whether most of your information is electronic or paper, certainly if you have a desk and work area, then you need to organize it effectively. And one way to do that is to use the triage priority method. A, B and C. The A zone is directly in front of you, and this is where you work all of the day. So therefore the only thing that you have in front of you, or the things you have in front of you, are tools and equipment and paperwork that you are using at the moment. For example, you might have a keyboard, you might have a telephone, the one document that you are working on. The only thing you have in front of you are things that you would describe as critical. Maybe a pen. But everything else that you are going to be using today would live in your B zone. Stapler, business cards, paper clip, perhaps a wallet. And while they may not be on your desk, they may very well be under your desk or in your top drawer. And finally, the C zone is that zone which is well away from your work area, which you get to go to several times a day only. So therefore we're not trying to keep things that we're using all the time in the C zone, only things we're using infrequently. And if you were to use this method, you would be amazed with just how effective you'd become, and what an example you'd set for your people. At the bottom of the workbook, you'll see there the 6 secrets to managing information. I'd just like to go through them with you one at a time. The first secret: your work area is a blank of your control. Any thoughts? Your work area is a reflection of your control. The truth is, whether you are or are not in control, the way our work area looks gives our colleagues an idea as to our level of control. A very disorganized, messy work area might tell people that we're not possibly focused as best as we could be. Number 2, your in tray is your professional letterbox. You wouldn't leave paperwork or envelopes opened or unopened permanently in your letterbox at home. Likewise, you wouldn't or shouldn't leave documents opened or unopened in your in tray or your inbox. These two areas are really locations for anything which is coming through, and then you need to action them. Number 3, when handling paper or electronic information, apply the 6D method. The first D is to delete. If something comes across your desk, or it's an email perhaps, and you have no need to reply to it, or it's junk, simply delete it. However, sometimes we end up with things that we're not quite sure what to do with, but we are reluctant to throw them away. Therefore, you debox it. And if you're thinking, what in the world is a debox? I'll be discussing that very shortly. As a manager, you should be looking at delegating anything where you are not adding any value. Number 4 is delay. Ask yourself, could I delay this a day, a week, a month? And what I would do is I would make an entry in my to-do list or in Outlook or Lotus Notes, and I'd diarize it to remind myself to do in a week's time or a month's time, if indeed I can't delegate. Number 5 is to divide. And what that means is I take a task which might take 10 hours and I divide it over 10 hours. For example, I don't have 10 hours today, but what I might have is 2 hours today, an hour tomorrow, 3 hours the following day, and therefore I break it down. Or better still, I divide it into small portions every day and do over a couple of weeks. For example, if I had a 10-hour project, that would mean 1 hour a day for 10 days. Finally, when things come across your desk and they can be actioned straight away, and they should be actioned straight away, we should just do it. Handle information only how many times? You've heard it before. The answer is once, ideally. And number 6, when wanting to know what to discard and what to keep, remember a very fascinating Italian gentleman whose name is Vilfredo Pareto and his famous 80-20 rule. You might have heard of the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. This was developed by a gentleman called Vilfredo Pareto. That's him on the left-hand side. And he, quite by accident, came across a formula which was coined the 80-20 rule. And that is that 20% of your efforts produce 80% of your results. Now this can be applied to many other aspects of business or life. 20% of your team members cause 80% of your problems. 20% of your customers provide 80% of your business. You can consider how that works in many different areas. For example, one day I thought to myself, as I looked at the carpet, 20% of the carpet is walked on 80% of the time. In other words, only a small percentage of carpet is walked on in comparison to other carpet. That's the 20% gets worn out first. So therefore, when you are working at your desk, ask yourself, what do I need with me which makes up that valuable 20%? And the remainder can be placed well away from me, not directly in front of me. That's the end of this short session. When you're ready, click the next video or find the next video, because we're about to talk about desk and office organization and actually how to do this and give you examples.